Let's move to question time. Senator Cash.
Thank you. And my question is to the Minister for Trade and Tourism, Senator Farrell. Minister, yesterday you told Australians twice that President Trump raised the beef import ban directly with the Prime Minister as part of one of their phone calls. The Prime Minister denied this, and you have been forced to backtrack. Did the Prime Minister or his office direct you to change your story?
Thank you, Senator Cash. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, Senator Cash. No, I made a mistake. President Trump referred to the US beef exports in relation to Australia on his so-called Liberation Day speech and not in discussions with the Prime Minister. On realising my mistake, I apologised to the PM and I corrected the record with the journalist involved.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Cash, first supplementary.
In the first instance, how were you informed of this so-called mistake? And given the seriousness of international biosecurity and the potential impact on Australia's beef industry, can you confirm whether you were mistaken, misinformed or misrepresenting the facts when you were forced to retract your claim? And how can Australians have confidence in a minister who cannot keep account of his international trade negotiation consistent?
Thank you, Minister Cash. Order. 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 Minister I'm sorry. Order. There needs to be order. I've called the Minister. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Senator Cash, for your first supplementary question. Look, you know, one of the things my mum taught me as a child was if you make a mistake, own up straight away. That's what I did. What do you do when you make a mistake, Senator Cash?
Thank you, Minister Farrell. Senator, order. 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 Senator Cash, second supplementary.
And, Minister, are you now prepared to table the full briefing or record of discussions regarding US beef imports between the Prime Minister and the US President and between your own department and US officials so that the Australian people can know who influenced this decision and whether the Prime Minister is telling the truth?
Thank you, Senator Cash. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Senator Cash, for your second supplementary question. In my experience, the Prime Minister always tells the truth. Always tells the truth. When I make a mistake, Senator Cash, I own up. I come clean. I realise my mistake. I corrected it as quickly as I could. If other journalists rang me, I corrected it with them. I made a mistake, I've corrected it, and that's, as far as I'm concerned, the end of the matter.
Thank you, Senator Cash. Senator Ananda Raja.
President, this is not my first speech. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. The Albanese Labor government's #1 priority in its first term was addressing cost of living pressures facing Australians. How does the government plan to build on this approach and deliver more cost-of-living relief, in particular by making medicines cheaper?
Minister Wong.
Can I thank Senator Ananda Raja for that excellent question? I know she knows a lot about the health system and she understands, as all Labor senators do and members, the importance of delivering cost-of-living relief. In 2023, we made the largest cut to the cost of medicines in the history of the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme. We brought the maximum price of PBS-listed medicines down from $42.50 to $30 a script, and we did this for all Australians. And Australians have saved more than $1 billion thanks to our pledge to make medicines cheaper. And now we're doing even more. My colleague, Mr Butler, will introduce legislation this week to cap the cost of a PBS prescription at $25 a script and continue the freeze for pensioners and concession card holders at $7.70 until the end of the decade. So this government, having already made the largest reduction in the price of medicines in the 75-year history of the PBS, is now delivering a further election commitment delivering more cost-of-living relief to Australians and, in particular, to pensioners, because we on this side believe that no Australian should have to skip the medicines their doctor says they need just because they can't afford it. Now, President, we all remember how those opposite responded to the Albanese Labor government's implementation of cheaper medicines. We all remember what they did. Can we remember? They opposed it. They've opposed it all. They voted against cheaper medicines for Australians. They voted against more money in the pocket of Australians. They voted over and over again against cost-of-living relief for Australians. They still haven't listened, and they still haven't learned.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Ananda Raja, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. During its first term and throughout the recent election campaign, the Albanese Labor government pledged to support Australians with the cost of living by helping them earn more and keep more of what they earn. The government has advocated for 4 increases to the minimum wage since coming to office, and minimum wages increased by a further 3.5% on the 1st of July. Why can Australians only trust Labor to help them earn more and keep more of what they earn?
Thank you, Senator Ananda Raja. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator. And what I would say, President, that Australia is this, that Australians can trust the Albanese Labor government to help them earn more and keep more of what they earn, because that is what we have done. That is what we have done. We see wages growing, and the government has delivered tax cuts for every Australian taxpayer. Every Australian taxpayer. And we're building on that progress. Last week, the Minister for Industrial Relations introduced a bill in the House to protect, Senator Cash, you'll like this, the penalty rates. The penalty rates and overtime rates of award-reliant workers. Now, we know these last 3 years have been difficult for many hard-working Australians, and we also know that low wages were a deliberate design feature of the Coalition's economic policy. Unlike them, we have advocated every single year since coming to government for increases to the minimum wage for almost 3 million workers, and as a result, they are better off over $9,000.
Senator Ananda Raja, second supplementary.
The Albanese Labor government is committed to continuing to deliver responsible cost-of-living relief that helps Australians. How is the government building on its first-term cost-of-living relief measures to provide even more relief for Australians?
Thank you, Senator Ananda Raja. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Ananda Raja. Well, the government introduced legislation, as you know, to cut student debts by 20%, a change that will benefit 3 million Australians and will make HECS repayments fairer, benefiting millions more students in the years to come, people who are not even at university as yet. The government's increased paid parental leave to 24 weeks. We've increased family and individual and family income limits so more Australians can benefit, and superannuation will now be paid on all government-paid parental leave. We've also introduced the Commonwealth Prac payment for students in crucial fields like nursing, midwifery, teaching and social work to take pressure off when they are flat-out doing prac placements while trying to pay the bills. And we're supporting tradies, supporting new tradies who take up apprenticeships in housing construction, who will receive $10,000 incentive payments on top of their wages. What is clear from the last term and from the approach this term? Labor is for cost-of-living relief.
Thank you, Minister.
The Liberals are for higher
answering
taxes.
Has expired. Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Early Childhood Education, Senator Walsh. Addison's Family Daycare, located in Latrobe, currently supports 50 children from 37 families operating as a multi-educator family daycare service. 2 services operating out of 2 different divided facilities on one site and have done so for over 15 years. An arbitrary review of regulations by your department will mean that these 37 families and 50 children will no longer have access to a multi-educator family daycare if this is no longer permitted. Why is the Government, Minister, closing family daycare services for these 50 children and 37 families when access to service in the Latrobe area is so limited and the waiting time for places is over 1 year?
Thank you, Senator Colbeck. Minister Walsh.
Thank you, Senator Colbeck. I'm not familiar with the case that you've raised with me. I think a family daycare provider in, I think you said, the Latrobe Valley, and I think you said Latrobe, Tasmania, and I think you said there may be proceedings underway to close that facility. I'm not aware of that matter, Senator Colbeck. So if there's more information that I can provide you with about that specific matter, I will. What I will say is that the government is committed to providing Australians with more safe and quality early childhood education across the country. We know that there are many places in the country where families just don't have access to quality early childhood education, be that in long day care settings or be that in family day care settings. And that is why we are implementing the findings of the Productivity Commission review which we commissioned, including to build more quality early learning in places that need it most, including our outer suburbs and our regional areas. We have a $1 billion fund to invest in quality early education and to do that in places that are underserved so that more Australian families can have the benefits of quality early education.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Colbeck, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Abracadabra Family Daycare Centre in Devonport in Tasmania has been operating as a multi-educator facility for over 20 years, supporting 33 children from 25 families. The waiting time for a childcare place is also over 1 year. Minister, why is a government reinterpretation of the regulations closing services for these 33 children from 25 families in an area of childcare shortage and waiting lists over a year long?
Thank you, Senator Colbeck. Minister Walsh.
Thanks very much, Senator Colbeck. I refer you to my previous answer, which is that I'm not familiar with the case that you've raised with me. I'm happy to try and find further information for you to assist those families. And if you'd like to provide me with the material that you have, I'm happy to find out more for you. Again, we are committed to families having access to quality early childhood education around the country, no matter their postcode and no matter what their parents do. No matter their postcode really means that we are investing in early education in the places that need it most. And no matter what their parents do, means that we are replacing the punitive activity test put in place by the Coalition and guaranteeing 3 days early education for all.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Colbeck's second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Senator Walsh, in her first answer, talked about implementing the recommendations of the Productivity Commission review. Recommendation 5.3 of the Productivity Commission report specifically supports enabling 2 family daycare centres educators to operate from a single venue to improve accessibility and sustainability of these services in these communities. Why are you not supporting that recommendation and impacting on the accessibility of aged care in my local communities?
Thank you, Senator Colbeck. Minister Walsh.
Thank you very much, President. You referred to the Productivity Commission review in your final supplementary, Senator Colbeck, and we are doing more on early childhood education than you did in your 10 years in government, including commissioning that report and including implementing that report. That report called for a workforce investment, and we are investing $3.6 billion.
Minister Walsh. Senator Colbeck.
Point of order on direct reference. My reference was to the operation of multi-service childcare centres and the rules around using that specifically, and particularly in my communities, but also the Productivity Commission recommendation that directly referred to that element. So perhaps the minister might come back to the question instead of having a crack at the opposition.
Thank you, Senator Colbeck. The minister is being relevant to the question, and I'll call the minister again to continue answering the question.
Thank you, President. And you did mention the Productivity Commission report, Senator Colbeck. We are implementing the findings of that report, including investing $3.6 billion in the wages of early childhood educators, which is the most significant measure that could be taken to stabilise the workforce and provide quality early education and provide families with access to care. Unlike those opposite, the only thing you ever did in office is restrict access for children
thank you, Minister
to early
Walsh.
education.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Shoebridge.
Thanks very much, President. My question is to the Foreign Minister, Senator Wong. Senator, given the Prime Minister has stated in relation to Gaza, quite clearly it is a breach of international law to stop food being delivered, which was a decision that Israel made in March. When will your government move from statements such as this to material action to enforce international law, such as joining South Africa's genocide case in the ICJ, Magnitsky sanctions against the whole Netanyahu Security Cabinet, and an end to all military cooperation with Israel?
Thank you, Senator Shoebridge. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. Thank you to Senator Shoebridge for the question. As you would know, President, the catastrophic situation in Gaza has gone beyond the world's worst fears, and we know that Australians and people around the world are distressed and angry about what is occurring, including the ongoing violence and the deaths of so many innocent civilians, and this is unacceptable. As the Prime Minister said, and I think Senator Shoebridge went to this, it is a breach of international law to stop food being delivered, which is the decision that Israel made in March. I would add to that, it is also a breach of decent humanity. It is a breach of decent humanity. Now, it is the case that Australia is not a central player, but we do add our voice to the calls to the international community, and Senator Shoebridge would be aware I joined, as Foreign Minister, a statement from what was then, I think, 27 other countries. Since then, others have added themselves to that statement, and that is a good thing. Together with partners, we have called for all parties to abide by international humanitarian law. Together with partners, we have condemned the denial of aid, the killing of civilians. Together with partners, we have been part of the international call for ceasefire and hostage deal, and we remain unequivocal in our condemnation of Hamas. We have also, as you would be aware, we do not provide weapons to Israel and have not for 5 years since this conflict began. We have sanctioned extremist settler entities and individuals, and we have sanctioned members of the Netanyahu government for the human rights abuses of Palestinians. And we've called on Israel to abide by the decisions and findings of the International Court of Justice.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Shoebridge, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. Given you have repeatedly stated that the Australian government has full knowledge of concurrence of what happens at Pine Gap, what steps have you taken to ensure the joint US-Australian spy facility at Pine Gap is not being used to assist the Israeli military in its breaches of international law as identified?
Senator Watt.
Order, President. I don't really see how that's relevant to the primary question that Senator Shoebridge asked.
Thank you. I'll seek some advice on that. I am advised. The question is quite comprehensive in the way it's been drafted, therefore it drifts across some portfolio areas. But as a supplementary question, it does also contain some references to the primary question. So I'm going to invite the Minister to answer the question which relates specifically to her portfolio matters. Minister Wong.
Well, thank you. I understand that the Greens are desperate to try and gain domestic political traction from this conflict, and so desperate that they would make the assertions that are being made, which are not responsible and are inaccurate. Senator Shoebridge, I think we all understand some of the political tactics, including by the opposition in relation to this conflict. I think most Australians are appalled by what they see, but also recognise that they don't want the conflict reproduced here by people making inaccurate statements like the one you just made.
I believe the Minister has concluded her answer, Senator Shoebridge, so I'm going to invite you to ask your second supplementary.
Sure. President, Foreign Minister, noting those answers, recently leaked flight manifests reported in Declassified Australia have shown that the Royal Australian Air Force earlier this month facilitated the transfer of F-35 fighter jet parts to Israel. Will you, Minister, stop this from happening again?
Minister Wong.
Senator, I again say to you, I have said in this place, and so has the Prime Minister in the other place, we are not supplying weapons or ammunition to Israel. We have not done so since the Hamas-Israel conflict began, and for at least the past 5 years. I know that will not stop you from spreading misinformation about the long-standing—
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Order. Senator Shoebridge.
President, this question is about flight manifests that show the RAAF transfer in it, and the Minister is not being relevant. Deliberately personal, but not relevant.
Senator Shoebridge, I'm assuming you are raising a point of order. You need to say that when you stand, not just begin reiterating the question. So I understand it's a point. Is it a point of order?
Point of order, President. Relevance. The question is about the
Senator
flight
Shoebridge,
manifests.
You do not need to repeat the question. Thank you. Please resume your seat. Senator Wong, the Minister is being relevant to your question. Senator Wong, please continue.
I think everyone watching this will see that the Australian Greens political party are desperate to try and play domestic politics with this dreadful conflict. And, shame on you. Shame on you. I have explained to you multiple times, and yet despite that you continue to spread misinformation. We are part of the long-standing F-35 consortium. It is essential to our sovereign defence capability and manufacture— You're going to keep shouting at me? Is that how you deal with things? Would you like me to sit down?
Order. I've asked you to come to order 3 times, Senator Shoebridge. Minister, please continue.
The F-35, as part of the global F-35 supply chain, we contribute components and parts that are non-lethal in nature.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Grogan.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Education, Senator Walsh. The Albanese Labor government went to the election promising to cut student debt by 20%. We said it would be the first bill that we introduced this term. Can the Minister explain why it is so important to reduce HECS debt for our young Australians, and more broadly, how will Australians benefit from the government's higher education policies?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Walsh.
Thank you very much, Senator Grogan. And yes, I can. And I know your deep belief that education can change lives. In our last term, we made HECS indexation fairer. And in so doing, we wiped $3 billion in student debt for the more than 3 million Australians with a HECS debt. But that was just the beginning. Young people rightly told us that their debts were too large. And that's why we went to the election with a promise to cut student debt by 20%. We said the first legislation we would introduce would make that happen. Last week, the first week of this new parliament, that is exactly what we did. And this week we have the chance to make it law. because we understand what this cost of living relief means to people with student debts. It will wipe $16 billion from the HECS debts of Australians. For someone with the average HECS debt of around $27,000, it will mean about $5,500 wiped off their debt. And it won't just benefit uni students. This legislation covers all help loans, including loans to apprentices and to other VET students. But despite the referendum on student debt at the recent election, the newly elected coalition member for Forrest said only hours ago in the other place that this critical relief is, and I quote, grossly unfair. Grossly unfair. I wonder if he'd say that to one of his 11,000 constituents who have a HECS debt. On this side of the chamber, we know that whether you're studying at uni or at TAFE, you're developing the skills that keep Australia moving. That's what you get with the Albanese Labor government, a united team delivering on its promises.
Thank you, Minister Walsh. The time for answering has expired. Senator Grogan, first supplementary.
Thank you, President, and thanks to Senator Walsh for that great response. The Albanese Labor government is making changes to HECS to wipe student debt, which is great to see, and changes to the thresholds of when young Australians start paying off their HECS debt. Could the minister please outline how are these changes delivering a fairer HECS system for current and for future students?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Walsh.
Thank you, President. Well, our legislation before the parliament also makes HECS repayments fairer. We are putting money back in the pockets of people who are just getting started in life. We are a united team focused on delivering these reforms. And if only the same could be said of those opposite. The opposition leader had indicated they were ready to support reforms to HECS. But now it seems that Senator Henderson, has appointed herself the shadow Minister for Education. Senator Henderson, she couldn't get her policies up before the election and now barely into the second sitting week. And Senator Henderson's doing the numbers from the back bench. And it seems that she's having some success. The member for Forrest also said this morning, and I quote, "I welcome Senator Henderson's proposal today to amend the bill. So while you tear yourselves apart, we will build a fairer Australia."
Has expired. Order. Order. Senator Watt. Senator Grogan, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. The Albanese Labor government is focused on delivering its commitment to reduce HECS debt and make the system fairer. How important is policy consistency and unity, Senator Walsh, to delivering important reforms like HECS debt relief?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Walsh.
Thank you, President. Well, we are indeed fortunate, Senator Grogan, to be a big, united team. United on the things the Australian people sent us here to do, like delivering for students and young people with a clear plan to make HECS fairer. Now, contrast that with the opposition, who are, in week 2, an absolute rabble. The Shadow Minister and the self-appointed Shadow Minister are leaking against each other in the press.
Minister Walsh, please resume your seat. Order. 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 Senator Henderson.
Thank you very much, President. Point of order on direct relevance. Could you please explain why future students are being denied the discount?
Senator Henderson, that is not a point of order. Order. Thank you. Senator Walsh, please continue.
Thank you, Shadow Minister. But this morning, Senator Hume said you'd expect some jostling and readjustment so we get our policy positions straight. What that is code for, Senator Hume, is chaos. Chaos. And it does raise some questions for the Leader of the Opposition in the Senate. Does she agree with Senator Henderson, Senator Hume and the member for Forrest from her home state? Or will she back Senator Duniam over Senator Henderson?
Thank you, Minister Walsh. The time for answering has expired. Order. Order. And Senator Walsh, I remind you to make your comments to the chair. Senator Steele-John.
Thank you very much, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Disability and the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Wednesday marks 1 year since the Government's response to the Royal Commission into Violence, Abuse, Neglect and Exploitation of people with disability was released. And still there has been no action on key recommendations, meaning disabled people continue to experience violence, abuse, exploitation and neglect at alarming rates. Minister, 1 year on, why have you not legislated for a Disability Rights Act?
Thank you, Senator Steele-John. Minister McAllister.
Thanks very much, President, and thank you, Senator Steele-John, for the question. Senator Steele-John, I think everyone in this place understands the significance of that Royal Commission, and I would hope that across this chamber we would have shared objectives in terms of protecting the rights of people with disability. And I think that the stories and the courage of the people who spoke with the Disability Royal Commission about their own experiences are a continuing reminder of both some of the things that we must address collectively as a parliament, but also the importance of truly listening to the voices of people with disability. And if you may indulge me, this is my first opportunity to answer a question in question time, having taken on these responsibilities with the government, and it is my firm intention to work as closely as I may with people with disability to understand their perspectives as we work through some of the changes that are required. We are working with the disability community to implement reform, and as part of our initial response, we are investing making a range of investments to safeguard people, to uphold rights and to support inclusion. We also it builds on $3 billion of investments in the last term of Parliament to build a more inclusive Australia. And we do.
Minister, please resume your seat. Senator Steele-John.
Thank you, President. On relevance, my question did go to the specific of the Disability Rights Act and why it has not been legislated 1 year on from the release of the government's response.
That was part of your questions, Senator Steele-John, and it went to more broadly the results and the outcomes and the evidence of the Royal Commission. Minister McAllister, I'll remind you of the whole question. Please continue.
Thanks very much, President. And the government is committed to working on these and other questions, Senator Steele-John, to improve community inclusion, mainstream services and disability supports so that people with disability can get the support that they need and participate on an equal basis. I simply wanted to draw your attention, I think, finally, just in the time available, that we are reporting regularly on implementation progress, and the most recent report was published on the 23rd of December last year.
Senator Steele-John, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. The Disability Royal Commission recommended the establishment of a National Disability Commission to be an independent oversight body to take disabled people's complaints of abuse and discrimination. This commission still does not exist. When will the government establish a National Disability Commission?
Thank you, Senator Steele-John. Minister McAllister.
Thanks very much, Senator Steele-John. And the government is, as I've indicated, working with our state and territory counterparts on the many issues that were raised by the Royal Commission. I have also some additional information to provide to you in relation to your primary question, which includes information about options to reform the Disability Discrimination Act 1992, and I can advise you that the Attorney-General's Department has been progressing work on options to reform this Act and will shortly be commencing consultations with people with disability, their carers and families, employers, unions, educational bodies, small business and the broader community to participate and share their views on the best way to update the Act. This review of the Act is one part of the response to the Commission, ensuring that Commonwealth anti-discrimination legislation remains fit for purpose.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Steele-John, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. July is Disability Pride Month, a time for disabled people to celebrate who we are as individuals and as a community. Minister, what community-led engagements have you attended to mark Disability Pride Month?
Minister McAllister.
Thank you, Senator Steele-John. What I can inform the Senate is that since becoming the Minister, I have greatly enjoyed and welcomed my opportunities to meet with disabled people and understand their perspectives and worldviews. And for me, that has meant trying to engage with the most diverse representatives of that community possible. It's meant visiting facilities where people attend to undertake activities. It's meant meeting with representative organisations. It's meant being invited into people's homes and sitting around the kitchen table and understanding their perspectives on disability. This is an immense and rich community with a rich political tradition, in some ways culminating in the campaign to establish the NDIS, but not confined to that by any means. And it is my great hope that I will be able to work closely, respectfully, thoughtfully with that community during my term.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator McDonald.
The question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, Senator McCarthy. Minister, if the decision to allow US processed beef from Canada and Mexico was genuinely based on science, why the urgency that has precluded a transparent and open consultation with the most impacted primary producers, the largest regional employers and, of course, the thousands of Australian workers potentially impacted?
Thank you, Senator McDonald. Senator McCarthy.
Thank you, President, and I thank the Senator for her question. And I'm a little surprised by the question, actually, President, given that this was a process that occurred directly under those opposite, and it has been going, for 10 years, President, for 10 years. And I'm not quite sure what it is that the opposition don't understand about this, other than the fact that there is hypocrisy being shown by these questions in regards to science. Yeah, there absolutely is. There absolutely is. This has gone on for nearly a decade, and we know that there has been a process that's been thoroughly done through this. And so, Senator McDonald, you know that as much as anyone does.
Thank you, Senator McCarthy, and I remind you to direct your answers to the Chair. Senator McDonald, first supplementary.
Minister, can you then guarantee that there are no biosecurity issues or concerns for human health with this decision?
Thank you, Senator McDonald. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President, and I thank the Senator for her question. It's very curious that they're worried about biosecurity, given that they've no interest in net zero with what the other side are trying to do in terms of looking after, the care of this country.
Order.
But, President, I will say this, that Minister Farrell has made it very clear, and so has... You see, they laugh opposite. They laugh opposite because they're so divided about what they are doing in relation to this space. They do. They laugh about it, and they don't care, President.
Minister McCarthy. Senator McDonald.
Relevance. This is a rambling, I'm not sure what, but it's certainly not relevant.
The Minister is being relevant, and I will continue to listen. Order.
Thank you for that, because I am absolutely being relevant. We do care very much about biosecurity. We do know that we have done everything we can in this space, given the mess that you left in underfunding that whole area.
That's right. Now, Minister, please resume your seat. Senator Cash.
Again, it's relevance. The question was very direct. Can the Minister guarantee there are no biosecurity issues or concerns with this decision?
Thank you, Senator Cash. Just a moment, Senator McCarthy. Order. I'll make the point to the earlier point of order. If you want your question answered, then don't interject, because the minister is entitled to take those interjections. Secondly, in response to the matter just raised by Senator Cash, the minister is being directly relevant. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, President. Well, we certainly are not compromising on biosecurity, President.
Thank you, Minister. Senator McDonald, second supplementary.
Minister, will you support a transparent and honest inquiry into the decision on US beef processed beef from Mexico and Canada?
Order. Senator McCarthy.
Thank you, President. Well, as the members opposite do know, this has been going on for 10 years.
Thank you, Senator McCarthy. Senator Whitten.
Thank you, President. This is not my first speech. Senator McDonald has put me at the post. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, Senator McCarthy. Your government recently opened a new front in its war on Australian farmers by lifting science-based restrictions on United States beef imports without any consultation with our own beef producers. This follows a decimation of our sheep industry with your cruel ban on live exports, most keenly felt in my home state of Western Australia. Minister, why is your government intent on crushing these world-leading livestock industries and the lives of Australian farmers?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President, and I thank the Senator for his question, which is completely untrue in terms of this government's approach to our agricultural section. In fact, we have a minister who is very, very adamant about getting out across Australia to work with our farmers, to work with the agricultural industry, and wants to see the support that only we have been able to provide, given the mess the other side had left the industry in.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Whitten, first supplementary.
Thank you, Senator. After this latest attack on beef producers, the harm caused to sheep farmers and the naked theft of more water from irrigators in the Murray-Darling Basin, will the Minister please inform the Senate which other rural industries are in the government's crosshairs?
Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. Well, I certainly reject the question outright, President. As I said in my previous response, our government is very much assisting the farmers across Australia, in particular our minister.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Whitten, second supplementary.
Thank you, Senator.
Order. Order.
Food imported into Australia is usually subject to strict labelling requirements, so Australians can choose the better, safer, cleaner food produced locally. What measures will your government take to ensure Australians know the true origins of beef imported from the US but sourced from countries with known biosecurity health risks?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. And as I have said in this answer and in previously, we are not compromising on any biosecurity, Senator. No, it's not. It comes in line with an assumption that's absolutely incorrect, that we are not doing our jobs when we are. Australia is a trading nation with 1 in 4 jobs relying on trade, and our cattle industry has significantly benefited from this. And I am referring to the question around beef. Aussie beef has had back-to-back record-breaking exports.
Please resume your seat. Senator Canavan.
On relevance, so the question was clearly aimed at testing requirements for the importation of beef. Speaking about trade does not go to the relevance of that question.
Thank you, Senator Canavan. And as I'm sure you will recall, the question also had a preamble, so the minister is being relevant. Minister McCarthy, please continue.
Thank you, President. They just don't want to hear about beef.
That's right.
So last year, worth $14 billion, supported by reinstated and improved market access, exports have increased 55% since we came to government.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Babet.
Thank you, President. Now, my question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Climate Change and Energy. Given the member for New England has introduced a bill to repeal Australia's legislated net zero target and the growing public discontent over skyrocketing energy prices, how does your government justify how does it justify clinging to a policy that delivers neither environmental certainty nor energy affordability for Australian families and Australian businesses? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Babet. Senator Ayres.
Well, thank you, Senator Babet, and I do sincerely thank you for this question, and reflect that it's not necessary for Senator Canavan to ask this question, or Senator Antic to ask this question, or Senator Nampijinpa Price to ask this question, because it's all one team over here. All one team over here on the question of policy certainty around energy policy, the approach that the Australian government takes on climate change, on rebuilding and modernising our electricity system. There's complete unanimity across all of this show over here who never learnt the lesson, in 2022. And certainly didn't learn the lesson. Didn't learn the lesson in 2025.
Senator Ayres, I am going to draw you back to the question. Thank you. Order. 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 Senator Wong.
President, respectfully, if I could submit, the question does go to net zero, and the minister's wind-up, albeit quite a lengthy one, actually is about the policy position on net zero.
Thank you, Senator Wong, and I did allow some leniency for Senator Ayres to get to the question, and when he didn't, in what I thought was a timely manner, I drew the question to his attention. Minister Ayres.
You were very lenient, President, very lenient indeed, and I was getting ahead of myself. I was. Net zero, for Senator Babet's information through you, Chair, is really a basic maths concept. We've reached. I just want to set it out, a little bit of clarity for the team over here. We've reached net zero emissions when the amount of greenhouse gas that we emit into the atmosphere is no more than what is removed. Senator Babet, Senator Cash has asked. I should have included you in the list of potential askers. You know, the sort of silly billies over here on energy policy. Now, if you're inclined to interject, Senator Cash, perhaps you could explain how it is that you've been defying your leader, repudiating her authority. Already week 2, first weekend of a sitting fortnight.
Thank you,
You're up and about.
The time for answering has expired, and I will remind you as well to direct your comments to the chair. Senator Babet, first supplementary.
That was excellent. Thank you for that. Now, Minister, since the government adopted net zero, it has repeatedly promised to lower our energy bills. Now, since we got net zero, electricity has gone up by 31% and gas has gone up by 40%. Why hasn't net zero lowered our power bills as we were promised? And do you guarantee, Minister, that net zero in the future is going to lower our bills?
Thank you, Senator Babet. Minister Ayres.
Well, one thing that I can guarantee, Senator Babet, is that the cheapest form of energy, the cheapest electricity system for Australia, if you're remotely interested in certainty, affordability, reliability, is renewables backed up by storage and backed up by gas. That's the truth of the matter. That's the truth of the matter.
Order.
And that's why what's left of a sensible position coming from the opposition on the other side, I assume, is out there briefing journalists to say we're desperately unhappy, desperately unhappy with the position that's been adopted by some of the characters over here. Because the one thing that you can guarantee will drive up electricity prices and drive away investment in Australian manufacturing capability in the energy system is the sort of policy incoherence we're seeing over here.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Babet, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Look, Minister, will your government rule out introducing additional taxes, carbon levies or price-based mechanisms in the future to enforce this net zero compliance on Australian businesses and consumers?
Thank you, Senator Burnett. Minister Ayres.
Look, the government's policy is very straightforward and it's there for everybody to see. And it was endorsed strongly at the last election. And we've got a job to do to get about continuing to make sure that we're building more electricity generation, more transmission capability, so that firms like Tomago Aluminium have got access to the low-price electricity that they need. We've got a job to do delivering for Australians, not the kind of complete policy incoherence that is dominating what's going on over here. And you see what's happened. You see what's happened last week. And for the first hour of House of Representatives this morning really displayed what's on show.
Senator Hanson.
Relevant to the question, will you give your word that there's no increased taxes or to the renewables that you're pushing?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Thank you, Senator Hanson. The minister is being relevant. Minister.
Well, there certainly won't be increased taxes. What there'll be is certainty. Certainty about what our framework is. Unless the old sort of Joyce and Boyce show over here, all the sort of bulls in the paddock over there, desperately trying to undermine the poor old leader of the opposition.
Expired. Senator Bragg.
Thank you very much, President. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. On Saturday, the CFMEU announced that it would expand operations in New South Wales. The New South Wales CFMEU boss, Michael Crosby, said, and I quote, "We are looking at large, multiple, complex residential construction and it may push up costs," end quote. Given they are supposed to be in administration and have been shown to increase the cost of construction by up to 30%, will the government now intervene to stop this CFMEU expansion?
Good question. Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Bragg for his question, and I note that he is one of those on that side who does, I think, still support net zero, and is not joining in the Senator Cash's, Senator Canavan's, Mr Joyce's campaign to undermine their leader, which is, I have to say, quite an extraordinary sight to watch. But, Senator Bragg, I will come to your question. It's a minor detour. It's only a minor detour, to be fair. You wouldn't be. I was not aware, Senator, and I'll get further information of the details of everything you have outlined. Obviously, we had Auckland over the weekend, and I was engaged primarily on other matters. You would be. Because I never know how to answer anything, Senator. That's right. What I would say to you, Senator, and I'll see if I can get some further information specifically on New South Wales. As you would know, we have made our position in relation to the CFMEU clear. You will recall that the government has put in place an administration and administrator in relation to the CFMEU. You would be aware that the government has been very clear about our view in relation to the CFMEU, and we will continue to work to ensure that the sort of corruption and misconduct and alleged corruption and misconduct that has been both found and asserted is stamped out. As I have said on multiple occasions, we are a labour movement. We know the benefit of trade unions for working people, and we also know that organised crime has no place inside the trade union movement.
Thank you, Minister Wong. Senator Bragg, first supplementary.
Thank you very much. Treasury says that the government won't hit the Labor Party's target of 1.2 million new houses by the end of the decade. Perhaps as part of the advice you are seeking, Minister, can the government guarantee that the CFMEU's latest efforts won't push up construction costs around the country and push housing completion figures even lower?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, I think we all know that one of the primary drivers of housing prices going up is a lack of supply, which is why the government has, both in the context of the election but also in our first term, invested in a very large set of housing policies which both deal with demand and supply. And I would make the point, Senator Bragg, that you and others were amongst those who prevented and held up some of those key supply measures during the last term and now complain about housing supply and prices. I would also make the point about prices that we don't believe that the answer to housing shortages is A, simply cutting wages, or B, implementing the sort of policy that you came to the election with, which was super for housing, which would have driven up housing prices by more than $90,000 in capital cities.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg, second supplementary.
Thank you. The government's efforts to put the CFMEU into administration appear to have failed. Will your government now consider supporting the Coalition's Housing Investment Probity Bill, which will ban CFMEU involvement in all Housing Australia Future Fund projects?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Well, I reject. Thank you, President. I reject the proposition that Senator Bragg puts. He makes an assertion about the government's actions in relation to the CFMEU. And I again say in this case, we have taken the strongest possible action by placing the CFMEU into administration. That is the fact. That is the fact. We've taken the strongest possible action in placing the CFMEU in administration. The administrator, I understand, has terminated already a number of officials involved in some of the behaviour that was reported, and the reported behaviour was unacceptable. And the administrator is placing— well, I know you don't want to listen to this, Senator Cash, but we are actually doing the work of putting that union into administration in order to clean it up, because that is the right thing to do for working people and for the economy.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Ghosh.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Senator Ayres. In May this year, the Albanese Labor government was re-elected with a mandate to keep acting on climate change and keep delivering an affordable and cleaner energy system. One of the signature measures was Labor's commitment to deliver cheaper home batteries to bring down electricity costs for Australian households. What progress has the government made on this commitment and its broader work in delivering a new and affordable energy system?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Senator Ayres.
Thanks, President. Senator Ghosh, thank you very much for that question. We have made quite a bit of progress indeed. The reducing the cost of household batteries policy that was endorsed by the people of Australia in the last election is building on Australia's success with rooftop solar. Now, indeed, from 1st of July, we are implementing cheaper home batteries, and over 15,000 Australian households across the country have taken up those batteries since July 1. 28 days, 15,000 Australian households already. That's 536 households every single day signing up, buying batteries, delivering cheaper prices for them, and doing a lot of work to stabilise our electricity grid. It slashes the price of a battery, Senator McDonald talks about cost, by 30%, and for many of those households will bring down their energy bills by up to 90%. Tens of thousands of people in electorates like Gilmore, where 214 Australian households have taken advantage of the scheme. Macquarie, where 200 Australian households, in the seat of Hunter, 197 Australian households taken up this offer and delivered cheaper power for themselves and cheaper batteries for their households. In Flinders, 109. In the seat of Wright, 238. In Western Australia, where Senator Cash was indulging a sort of right-wing ideological frolic over the weekend, the seats of Mayo, Tangney, all lead their states. Tangney,
Thank you.
Well, Senator,
the time for
the Labor seat of...
Thank you, Senator Ayres. Senator Ayres, resume your seat. Order. 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 I have Senator Ghosh on his feet. Order. Senator Ghosh, I haven't called you yet. I'm still waiting for order. Senator Ghosh, first supplementary.
Investment in energy infrastructure is key to delivering clean and affordable power to households and businesses. Minister, what progress has been made on delivering renewable energy investment and deployment?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Minister Ayres.
Well, you're right, Senator Ghosh, that cheaper home batteries doesn't just deliver benefits for those Australian households, 15,000 already, who've taken advantage of the scheme. It also delivers system-wide benefits. And it's not the only Albanese government policy on the electricity system that is breaking records. Our policies across the economy are helping drive down emissions and deliver on our targets with a record renewable uptake. Energy and industrial emissions lower than when we came to government, with policies like the Safeguard reforms, Capacity Investment Scheme and the Cheaper Home Batteries program helping turn around a decade of denial and neglect that drove disinvestment, less Australian jobs, more Australian jobs flooding offshore because of the policy incoherence that was on display in the Morrison period and is back on display here in Canberra right now.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Ghosh, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. During the election campaign, the Albanese Labor government made meeting our climate goals and delivering investment in cheap and clean energy a key pillar of the pitch to the Australian people. Why is it necessary to provide clear signals to the market about the policy approach to this issue, and what are the risks if clear signals are not sent?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Minister Ayres.
Well, thanks, Senator Ghosh, for that question, because policy certainty actually matters. It actually matters. It gives business the confidence to invest. This government is giving the market the signals that it requires to deliver and move ahead with major energy infrastructure projects that provide clean power and affordable power for Australians. But what signal is being provided by those opposite? Senator Patterson, who knows that the opposition is in chaos, but argues, interestingly for a senator, that they are also irrelevant. He said, "Our position on this issue is academic. We are in opposition." But, President, Australians can see the chaos, and abrogating your responsibility as an alternative party of government to take the policy process seriously and deliver some kind of certainty for Australians and Australian business really shows us how—
Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I ask that further questions be placed on notice.
Thank you.